Good morning and welcome to John F. Kennedy's Space Center. I'm Joyce Rakelmy and I'm the manager of the Center Planning and Development Office at KSC. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. I'd like to introduce our first speaker this morning, Robert Cabana. As the 10th Center Director of Kennedy Space Center, he oversees a joint civil service and contractor team of nearly 8,000 employees. He's a veteran of 4 space shuttle missions, and as such, he's dedicated to supporting the NASA mission of making commercially sustained human spaceflight a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Director of Kennedy Space Center, Robert Cabana.
Thank you, Joyce. Good morning, and welcome to the Kennedy Space Center to share in today's activities. The first thing I'd like to do is acknowledge some of our very special guests on the stage this morning that have been extremely supportive in making this agreement a reality. On stage with me this morning are the Honorable Rick Scott, Governor of the State of Florida. And the Honorable Jennifer Carroll, the Lieutenant Governor. As well as some other very distinguished guests that I'm not going to recognize now as they'll be introduced to you as they speak. In the audience, we also have some elected representatives and servants, and I'd like to recognize them also. The Honorable Grace Swope, Florida Secretary of Commerce and President and CEO of Enterprise Florida. The Honorable Anant Prasad, the Secretary of the Florida Department of Transportation. The Honorable Thad Altman, Florida Senator from District 24. The Honorable Tom Goodson, Florida State Representative, District 29. The Honorable Andy Anderson, Vice Chairman, Brevard County Commissioner, District 5. The Honorable Robin Fisher, Chairman, Brevard County Commissioner, District 1. The Honorable Mary Boland, Brevard County Commissioner, District 4. The Honorable Chuck Nelson, Brevard County Commissioner, District 2. And representing the office of the Honorable Marco Rubio, United States Senator Susan Fernandez and Tom Self. Again, thanks to all of you for your support of KSC and our nation's space program. As we move forward to truly make KSC a 21st century multi-user launch complex, partnerships are going to be one of the keys to our success. And no partnership has been more critical than the one we have with Space Florida that enabled this facility to become used for the manufacture and test of Boeing's CST-100 spacecraft. OPF-3 has had a long and storied history with the space shuttle, and it will soon be ready to lead us into the next phase of space exploration by helping to enable commercial operations to low Earth orbit. Commercial operations are vital to our future success as they keep us from being dependent on our Russian partners to deliver our crews to the International Space Station and bring much needed work here to the Space Coast. KSC is moving forward. Through our many partnerships, we will enable commercial space operations while we continue to provide NASA with its expendable launch vehicles that are critical for our science missions and prepare our launch complex and processing facilities for the arrival of the Orion Multipurpose Crew Vehicle and the Space Launch System, our heavy lift rocket that will once again allow us to explore beyond our home planet. I'd like to thank everyone who helped make today a reality. as KSC continues to take yet another step into the future. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Frank Dibello, the President and CEO of Space Florida.
Thank you all and welcome. And thank you, Bob, for your kind words and especially for your friendship on the partnership journey that we're on together. This is truly an historic occasion which marks the beginning of a new era in the evolution of this national asset that we call the Kennedy Space Center. Today we celebrate the completion of an agreement which grants Space Florida access to this historic facility that we all recognize played such an important role in times past, and which will be repurposed to become a visible and important part of our future. It is the beginning of a partnership journey, which we hope will lead to a future development concept for this national asset as a multi-use capability that will ensure the nation and Florida's continued leadership in manned space exploration activities. The state of Florida is very proud to be a partner in that journey. It is also no coincidence that I am standing sort of in the middle between the NASA logo and that of the company, and that Space Florida is center to this. This achievement today represents the best example of why Space Florida was created. And this event celebrates what can be achieved through partnership when NASA, the state, and private sector work together toward a common goal. Today, we also, though, celebrate the future of America's manned space program through the partnership-based evolution of our nation's commercial space capabilities. As you can see to your right and to your left, Boeing has already been working hard to develop a very exciting component to NASA's next-generation manned spaceflight program. And we applaud their decision to locate their commercial crew headquarters and manufacturing capability here in Florida, which will continue to be the center of the nation's manned space activities. Before I introduce one of Boeing's key leaders for this project, I'd like to extend my sincere appreciation on behalf of the state of Florida to the White House, certainly, which has stood solidly in support of the evolution of the nation's commercial space capabilities, and especially to the NASA leadership team at headquarters, to Deputy Administrator Lori Carver, who is an old friend, actually a young old friend, and also to Bob Cabana and his staff for their patience and hard work in driving this agreement through its journey to approval. Thanks to your unrelenting interest in seeing vital KSC assets utilized to their fullest potential. This community will now have the opportunity to witness a key component of our country's space future, the commercial space transportation component that is absolutely required for support of the International Space Station, and we will watch that evolve right here in Florida. But we recognize that the White House and NASA cannot do this alone. The future of the nation's commercial space capabilities rests in the hands of many others who must come together in support of these critical capabilities. Only the Congress can determine when we will stop the investment of our nation's tax dollars into the purchase of continued space transportation service from the Russians, and invest instead to develop U.S. workforce and commercial industry capabilities. It's a national imperative that we have a strong commercial space capability in our industry to stand alongside the nation's civil space exploration program led by NASA. We can no longer afford to be at risk of a single-point failure as we strive to utilize the world's greatest engineering achievement, embodied in the International Space Station. And we need commercial space transportation capabilities sooner rather than later. 2018 is unacceptable for us to have the best chance of gaining a return on investment from the ISS for the nation's citizens, taxpayers, who paid almost $100 billion to build it. Adequate and timely investment by congressional leadership is a requirement, and we think the administration's budget request for commercial crew should be fully supported. By placing some of the onus of responsibility on the Congress, I would be remiss if I didn't also recognize the hard work and support provided by the Florida delegation, and especially thank U.S. Senators Bill Nelson and Marco Rubio for all they have done to make this day possible. I would also say, Senator Nelson, without your significant achievement in the unanimous passage of the NASA authorization bill, we would not have reached this event today. So we are very grateful to you. We are excited about the potential for this facility and Boeing's newest Florida-based initiatives, and we recognize the key role played by our U.S. Senators and certainly the Florida delegation in enabling these events. And that certainly includes some of our most staunch supporters, Congressman Bill Posey and Congresswoman Sandy Adams, so thank you. I'd like to also recognize the state of Florida's role, and especially thank Governor Rick Scott and Lieutenant Governor Jennifer Carroll, who are both with us today. I just recently traveled with Governor Scott on a trade mission in Brazil, and I can tell you he does live up to the reputation of being the hardest working governor in the 50 states. I also have to thank you, Governor Scott, for the Lieutenant Governor as chair of our board. This is a lady that is intelligent, clearly has an energy level that keeps us all on our toes, and represents us well in any forum. Together, your collective and unwavering support of this transaction in particular, and your dedication to ensuring that Florida continues to serve as the aerospace leader in manned space activities are critical to the success of the programs like the one we are celebrating here today. We are grateful for the continued sustaining support you have given to Space Florida for these activities. I also want to comment on the strong sustaining support we received from the Florida Department of Transportation. Secretary Anath Prasad was to have been here, and I believe may still be coming, but his deputy Bob Romig was as well. FDOT has played a crucial role in supporting this KSE project, and we all greatly appreciate their recognition of space transportation as a part of Florida's transportation plan and future. I would like to especially recognize the contributions of Senate President Mike Haradopoulos for his ongoing support of Florida's space industry. He and Dean Cannon in the House, while he could not be here today and they could not be here today, without their strong support over the past couple of years, this project also would not have been possible. From a local perspective, we've always enjoyed the support of our delegation. And I also want to commend Senator Thad Altman and Tom Goodson, who are here today with us, for the support that you continue to give us. Thank you so much for being here. From a statewide perspective, it's important for us to appreciate the efforts of the economic development team that Governor Scott has built. Under Gray Swope's leadership and the governor's leadership, it is strong, united, and speaks with one voice in support of Florida's future as the place to be in business. It has been a pleasure to work closely with Enterprise Florida under Gray's leadership, and also the Department of Economic Opportunity and Workforce Florida, and here at the local level with the county, where we've always enjoyed strong support. The EDC of Florida Space Coast and Workforce Development Board have been true partners in this effort. The partnership between our state organizations is a key component to ensuring that any venture like this gets off the ground and speaks well for our collective future. Space Florida, on behalf of the state of Florida, has been pleased to work with NASA and Boeing over the past year to secure this facility for Boeing's use in developing the CST-100 commercial crew capsule. We are thrilled to be part of this historic announcement today and look forward to continuing to work with NASA and other commercial companies like Boeing to maximize the potential for space-related economic growth. As a state and as a nation, we all have a vested interest in seeing commercial crew and cargo companies succeed. Companies like Boeing and SpaceX and Orbital Sciences and Sierra Nevada and many others must succeed not only in their commercial space endeavors, but we would like them especially to succeed well in Florida. This state will do its part to make that happen. For those shuttle workers that are watching what is happening today, Florida will remain a vital and important part of the nation's space future. And I know that with announcements like today's, we will continue to lead the way. Now I'd like to take a moment to introduce my partner in this venture in Boeing, John Elbon, who is the Vice President and General Manager of Boeing's Space Exploration Division. John is responsible for the strategic direction of Boeing's civil space programs and support of NASA programs in general, including the International Space Station, commercial crew development, checkout assembly, and payout processing services, and for Boeing's activities in support of NASA's future space launch system. Prior to his current role, John served as the Vice President and Program Manager of Boeing's commercial programs, managing the company's efforts in a variety of areas. He is very adept at leveraging innovations and capabilities across Boeing for NASA and other commercial customers. I've known John for a long time and admire his capabilities and integrity that he brings to this new role. Please join me in welcoming John Elbon to the podium.
Thank you, Frank. Good morning. What a great venue this is. It really underscores the inflection point that our human spaceflight program is going through. In the access stands behind the stage, you can see the outline of the space shuttle. And it's a strong reminder of the recent past. When you enter this building and see it, it kind of causes a twinge of sadness, I think. Shuttle was a great engineering achievement and an incredibly capable vehicle. It was the workhorse that we used to build the International Space Station. But it was also expensive to operate, and continuing with it as our transportation system to the International Space Station would have left little funding in NASA's budget to develop capabilities for the next steps in human exploration of the solar system. If we're going to find a way to fund exploration beyond the vicinity of Earth, low Earth orbit, particularly in today's fiscally constrained environment, we've got to find a way to do the job of transporting crew to the International Space Station in a more affordable manner. That's one of the primary purposes of the Commercial Crew Program, to provide affordable access to low Earth orbit so that we can use the International Space Station as the great laboratory it is, realize a return on the investment made by the world, and at the same time have funds within NASA's budget for development of capabilities like the Space Launch System and the Multipurpose Crew Vehicle for the next phases of exploration. We also hope that by providing safe, reliable, and affordable transportation to low Earth orbit, that will enable new markets to develop. Markets such as those described by Space Adventures, the company that brokered the 8 flights of private spaceflight participants on Soyuz capsules to the International Space Station, and also by Bigelow Aerospace, who's developing the Bigelow Space Complex. As those markets mature and the flight rate for commercial crew increases, the economies of scale will make the cost of NASA's transportation to ISS even more affordable and will free up even more funding within NASA's budget for exploration beyond the vicinity of Earth. From the beginning, Boeing has viewed commercial crew this way, not as a competitor with systems like SLS and MPCV, but as a complementary enabler of a bold plan for exploration beyond low Earth orbit. For these reasons, we're excited about the progress today's announcements represent and look forward to an exciting future for CST-100. The people on the platform here today have played a big role in getting us to this point, and on behalf of Boeing, I'd like to add my thanks to those of Frank's. First, Deputy Administrator Lori Carver. Lori has taken real ownership and has a passion for the Commercial Crew Program. As Frank worked to broker the arrangement between NASA and Boeing so that this facility could be made available, she took real ownership of that and worked it through NASA headquarters, enabling us to be here today. Center Director Bob Cabana, since the start of this transition, has leaned forward. Nothing like this happens without support from the top, and the center and the local area are really fortunate to have Bob as the leader as he embraces the future and the path forward. Frank Dibello just spoke. He's worked tirelessly as the broker to make today happen. His understanding of government and business make him the ideal person to put together an agreement that can work in a commercial environment and still satisfy government regulations. Senator Nelson could be called the architect of our new human spaceflight program. While others were arguing their parochial views of which direction we should go, Senator Nelson stood up as a true leader, worked hard to understand all the perspectives, and crafted the compromise that became the Senate Authorization Act. Without the Senator's leadership, I'm not sure the deadlock would have been broken and we might still not have a path forward. Representatives Posey and Adams are staunch supporters of human spaceflight and great advocates for this area. Their leadership in Congress has been critical to sustaining momentum. Governor Scott and Lieutenant Governor Carroll have been instrumental in creating an attractive environment for business across the state. In particular, their support for funding Space Florida is a big reason why we're able to be here today, making these announcements. It takes great leadership to make new things happen, and we're certainly blessed with that on this stage today. A big round of applause for all of them. Now I'd like to introduce John Mulholland. John is Boeing's program manager for the Commercial Crew Program. Prior to that, he managed our participation in the Space Shuttle program, and so he brings with him a discipline and an understanding of the challenges that it takes to make human spaceflight safe, reliable. That's important as we move to a more commercial environment for transporting humans to space, because if we lose sight of the rigor required to ensure those safe and reliable operations, it won't work as effectively as it needs to. John will ensure that that happens. John?
Thank you, John. Good morning and welcome to Boeing's Commercial Crew Celebration. Before I make our announcement, I'd like to again thank all of our distinguished guests as well as my teammates and customers for your support, not only for Commercial Crew, but for everything you do to enable the future of human space exploration. This will ensure the United States remains the leader in space, science, and technology. For more than 50 years, Boeing has worked side by side with NASA to design, develop, manufacture, and operate human and robotic space vehicles, including Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, Space Shuttle, and the International Space Station. Our Commercial Crew team is focused on leveraging this unique human spaceflight legacy, coupled with bringing in innovative design, manufacturing, and operations approaches from across the Boeing portfolio, including commercial spacecraft, commercial aircraft, and DoD fixed-wing and rotary aircraft. As we continue to use the International Space Station's outstanding research capabilities, we also realize that we are in the unfortunate position of having a single fault-tolerant access for crew to the International Space Station. With the partnership of NASA and adequate funding from Congress, we can deliver a commercial crew transportation system to the International Space Station that is safe, affordable, reliable, and available in 2015. Today, I'm happy to announce that the Boeing Company has selected Florida for its Commercial Crew Program Office. In addition, we plan to manufacture, test, and operate Boeing CST-100 in this facility, OPF-3, and we will launch from right here on Florida's Space Coast. Florida's selection made sense because of the business advantages achieved with co-location, the skilled local workforce, the outstanding facilities, and the proximity of our NASA customer. Boeing's Commercial Crew program will create high-technology jobs using the experienced space exploration workforce we have in this country. In Florida, when we reach full operations in 2015, we project our local workforce will grow to approximately 550 employees. As part of our ongoing development effort under the NASA Commercial Crew Development Space Act Agreement, we will soon begin OPF-3 building modifications and production outfitting. This program would not have been possible without the involvement of numerous individuals and organizations. I would like to express my gratitude to NASA, the state of Florida, Space Florida, Space Coast EDC, Enterprise Florida, Brevard Workforce, and the Brevard Board of County Commissioners. In closing, I would also like to acknowledge all the teammates across Boeing that are hard at work in their passion for human space exploration. I know we're all working very hard at the opportunity to once again provide a United States capability to launch crew to the International Space Station. Thank you. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. She was nominated by President Obama and confirmed by the U.S. Senate. As NASA's second in command, she works closely with the administration to provide overall leadership, planning, and policy direction for the agency. Together with the NASA administrator, she represents NASA to the Executive Office of the President, heads of government agencies, international organizations, external organizations, and communities. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorable Lori Garver, Deputy Administrator for NASA.
Thank you very much, John. And John, I love what you've done with the place so far. On behalf of NASA Administrator Charlie Bolden and the President Barack Obama, it is a pleasure to be here. As you were saying, John, it is all about leadership, and they have provided the true leadership that has made today possible. I want to first congratulate Bob Cabana and Frank Dibello on this milestone achievement. Frank has been a mentor of mine for more than 25 years, and it's very appropriate that you help lead this effort. It's a great day for NASA, for Kennedy Space Center, Boeing, Space Florida, and the commercial space industry here on the Space Coast. Long before the final space shuttle flight landed here at Kennedy on July 21st, Bob was already thinking about ways to ensure that future operational and economic health of this critical and historic center. Kennedy and the entire Space Coast have been synonymous with NASA's historic 30-year shuttle program, as well as America's first 50 years in human spaceflight. And the government and the agreement that we've reached today with Spaceport Florida will help set up an even brighter future. It's a major boost to NASA's development of a U.S. commercial crew space transportation capability to achieve safe, reliable, and cost-effective access to and from the International Space Station and to future low Earth orbit destinations. It's a major boost to the local economy here because it's going to create jobs and ensure that Florida's Space Coast remains strong and vibrant. So thank you, Bob, for being the driving force behind this exciting new partnership. I also want to congratulate the members of the Florida Congressional Delegation who are here with us today, including, of course, the Dean of the delegation, the only sitting member of Congress to have flown in space. Senator Bill Nelson was a payload specialist on the 1986 Space Shuttle Columbia flight. Happened to have a certain pilot, oh yes, Charlie Bolden. As all of you know, the Senator has worked tirelessly to ensure that NASA's mission, strategy, and resources continue to push the boundaries of the possible while spurring job growth and economic development here on the Space Coast. As John said, we really owe this common path forward to Senator Nelson, and we thank you. I also want to thank Governor Rick Scott for working to ensure that Florida remains at the center of America's historic achievements in space exploration. You and Lieutenant Governor Carroll have recognized and embraced the ambitious path forward that President Obama and Congress have set us on, and together we're going to win the future right here in Florida. Thank you. And we're so proud to partner with Space Florida and Boeing in the Milestone Agreement to bolster the rapidly expanding commercial space industry and bring new jobs to the Space Coast. So if anyone had any doubt that Kennedy Space Center would remain open for business, this new agreement allowing Space Florida to lay the groundwork for a world-class commercial space industry here should put that notion to rest. But even before we formed this new partnership, the Obama administration recognized how important the Space Coast is as a center of environmental, entrepreneurial, and spaceflight innovation. The President is backing that up with smart investments. Just recently, the Commerce Department awarded $1.7 million Green Challenge grant to the University of Central Florida to support the university's efforts at driving technology commercialization and entrepreneurship to grow a green innovation economy. Commerce's Economic Development Administration also recently awarded $2.8 million grant to the city of Palm Bay, Florida, to make critical roadway infrastructure improvements needed to help a major local employer, Harris Corporation, expand its operations. The project is expected to create 180 jobs and generate $100 million in private investment. And the city of Titusville was just awarded $2.1 million Job Accelerator Award through Space Florida. So as today's event confirms, the administration's decision to transport astronauts and cargo to the International Space Station over to our commercial crew partners is also reaping big dividends for the Space Coast. At the President's direction, we're engaging American companies in this work so that NASA can focus on what we do best, developing that next generation rocket and capsule system for human space flights to deep space destinations where we have never been before. But not only did we have only a single point foreign access to the space station with our former plan in the past administration, but we wouldn't have even had the space station had we not been able to extend its operations as the President did and the Congress confirmed in their budget. We now have extended the operation of the space station to at least 2020, which again means jobs in Central Florida for processing equipment and supplies to the ISS, as well as future launches of both cargo and crew. So with the President's support, NASA established the Commercial Crew Office right here at the Kennedy Space Center to manage our commercial space activities that will be critical to the nation's spaceflight. In President's budget request next year, we include $850 million for this program. The President's budget also recommends funding to modernize the launch infrastructure here at KSC and for the FAA's Commercial Spaceflight Center. So the Space Coast is certainly high on the administration's agenda. And while some have been slow to embrace the progress that we all want to make here in Florida, we can't wait for progress when American jobs are at stake and the United States leadership in space is being challenged by other countries. America has been the world leader in space exploration for more than 50 years, and if we stick to the ambitious plan laid out by the President and Congress, we will remain the leader for the next half-century. The agreement being announced today is the latest sign of tangible progress as Kennedy transitions from a government-only launch complex to a multi-user spaceport. It's also part of a larger commitment on the part of NASA and the Obama administration to bring jobs and economic development to the Space Coast by building on all of Kennedy's world-class launch capabilities. Just 3 weeks ago, Administrator Bolden was here to tour the new mobile launcher that will be used to launch our new deep space exploration vehicle to an asteroid, back to the moon, and onto Mars. Work is also continuing here on the Orion spacecraft, the next vehicle in which astronauts will travel again beyond low Earth orbit. And we have supplemented our agreements with Boeing and other commercial partners who are making great strides toward the capabilities to reach low Earth orbit and to the ISS. The agreement we have that we're announcing today with Space Florida is that important step in our efforts to make the best use of Kennedy Space Center's world-class assets. We're exploring other potential partnerships with commercial and government entities for space-related uses of facilities and assets here as well. So these partnerships provide avenues for sustaining the skilled workforce that we have at Kennedy, which is critical to helping us take the next big leap in human space exploration. So again, thank you to Bob Cabana and the team at Kennedy. We so appreciate your work. Thank you, Governor Scott, Frank Dibello, folks at Space Florida, and to all of our congressional supporters. The agreement not only strengthens Space Florida and Boeing, but it's a clear sign that NASA will continue to be an engine of growth for jobs and economic development for America and here on the Space Coast for years to come. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
I'd like to introduce our Florida State Representative from the 24th District, the Honorable Sandy Adams. In the House, Congresswoman Adams serves on the Committee on Science, Space, and Technology, as well as the Judiciary Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Congresswoman Sandy Adams.
Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to be here with you today. And any day that I can say jobs are going to be created in Florida's 24th District is a good day. Florida Space Coast has experienced devastating job losses since the ending of the Space Shuttle program. So the announcement today that the Boeing Company plans to locate its commercial crew program headquarters here at Kennedy Space Center is welcomed news. Boeing chose Kennedy Space Center because it is a world-class launching and integration facility with the best technologically equipped assets in the world. So there's no question why Boeing has chosen to have the center of their commercial crew program here at Kennedy. Additionally, they recognize a highly skilled workforce and synergy that comes from being locally integrated with your customer. Kennedy Space Center has been the heart of America's human space exploration for decades. Children along the Space Coast have grown up watching the shuttle launches from their porches and their beachfront, and with the sense of pride and awe. I watched with great sadness when the shuttle Atlantis landed last July, knowing that it marked the end of an era that so greatly defined our country and more specifically Florida's Space Coast. For 30 years, America's shuttle program has been more than just space exploration to Florida families. It's part of their lives, their history, and their livelihoods. But as we close one chapter of our nation's history, we open the other door. The Commercial Crew Development Program is the best near-term hope we have of getting American astronauts on American rockets built by our American aerospace workforce to the International Space Station. The recent failure of a Russian cargo mission highlights the problems associated with relying on foreign countries to access the ISS. Even though scientists have pinpointed that error caused on the Russian mission to crash, and the Soyuz has once again been qualified for flight, the failure still raises serious questions about consistent American access to a vital taxpayer investment. Countries like China and India realize the importance of having access to space, and they're working towards a robust and highly skilled space industry. As they continue to chart their own course, America must continue to chart ours so that we maintain leadership in space. As America takes steps towards the next chapter of space exploration, it is imperative that Congress remains vigilant in its support of the efforts of the Commercial Crew and the COTS program. It is imperative that Congress ensure that they have the tools they need to be ready to carry crew to station as soon as practically possible without sacrificing safety. The Boeing Company is helping lead the way in the next chapter of human space flight, and I am proud that they have chosen our community for their home. America has staked its ground in space exploration, and now is not the time to lose that ground. We must remain steadfast in our efforts. Thank you.
Our next speaker is the Florida State Representative from the 15th District, the Honorable Bill Posey. In the House, Congressman Posey serves on the Financial Services Committee and is also a member of the House Republican Study Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Congressman Bill Posey.
Thank you, Joyce. It's a great day to be alive. Every day is a great day to be alive, but some are greater. And this is one of those greater days. Celebrating Boeing's selection of the Space Coast to develop their commercial crew capability is extra great. The Commercial Crew Program represents our greatest near-term hope for returning our astronauts to low Earth orbit and the International Space Station aboard American-made vehicles. This capability will allow NASA to focus on exploring deeper into our solar system and beyond. The 550 jobs that will be created right here on the Space Coast are a welcome symbol of great things yet to come. Our Space Coast community has been through a lot. A lot of turmoil has passed. Over the years, it's been tough. And the retirement of the shuttle hurt. It served us well for 30 years. But it wasn't the end of the program. After all, it's been the workers here in the Space Coast who've kept our shuttle flying and made sure that the last flight was one of the best ever. While the Commercial Crew Program alone certainly would never fill the void left by the retirement of the shuttle, this announcement serves as further confirmation that Kennedy Space Center will remain the center of human spaceflight, whether on NASA's Space Launch System or one provided by one of our commercial partners. Your efforts have helped keep the United States the leader in space. Thank you for all of your hard work, your perseverance, as we turn to the next chapter of space exploration. God bless you all, and God bless America.
Our next speaker is our United States Senator representing Florida, the Honorable Bill Nelson. In the Senate, Senator Nelson serves on the Senate Commerce, Budget, Finance, Intelligence, and Aging Committees. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senator Bill Nelson.
Thank you, Governor. It's great to be home. Not only my home county where I grew up, but most of you don't know that just 3 miles up the road at the north end of the Space Shuttle runway, 99 years ago, my grandmother and grandfather homesteaded under the Homestead Act, which if you worked the land for 4 continuous years, the government would deed you 160 acres of land. It was a little settlement there called Wilson's Corner, what is today the corner of Beach Road and the State Road 3, and how they eked out a living swatting mosquitoes and holding off rattlesnakes and alligators and scratching through the dirt for a few little citrus trees and some crops. And during World War I, they cut broom straw that naturally grows in the salt marsh right to the west. And so when I say it's a privilege to come home, indeed it is. Ladies and gentlemen, the dream is alive. You look at what all we've announced here today. You look at the fact that we have a head of NASA who really knows what he's doing, a deputy that's got fire in the belly, and a center director here who is unequal, not only in his ability, but in his heart for the people, to take care of his people. That's the strength of this program. You all have been very kind with your comments about me, but let me tell you, Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson of Texas, she was my partner. It's one of the few things that's passed in the last year, and it was passed in a bipartisan way because of Kay and me working together. And now we see that we have a program that the President has for this commercial program requested $850 million in fiscal year 2012 for the commercial crew program. The House has cut it to $312 million, and the Senate, along with Kay, Barbara Mikulski, a number of others, has gotten it up to $500 million. And of course, you know the financial environment that we're dealing in. It's almost a minor miracle that NASA has not been cut more in its overall funding level in the range of close to $18 billion in this fiscal environment. And compared to other agencies, NASA has fared very well in what we have produced out of the Senate Appropriations Committee to flesh out the NASA bill that sets the course. I say the dream is alive because it is. The closing down of the Space Shuttle program was foretold in early January 2003 when we lost Columbia, because the investigation commission, the Admiral Gaiman Commission, said that you fly the space shuttle just as long as you have to build the space station and complete it, and then you replace the shuttle with a safer system. And thus, it's no secret that you see a different design, a design that harkens back to the old days with a capsule that sits on top of the rocket. The crew is not on the side of the rocket. And as a result, we have in parallel the program to take crew and cargo to and from the space station with the competitors that we're celebrating today and another that will launch in January, rendezvous and dock with the space station to deliver cargo. Now to get these systems human-rated with the redundancies and the escape systems so that we can take human beings safely into space. But in parallel, we've got the big rocket going, because NASA can't stay stuck in low Earth orbit. NASA's got to go out and explore the heavens, which is the mission of NASA. And because of the shutdown of the Space Shuttle program, you go out on the street and ask the average American, what do you think about the space program? And they'll say, I'm so sorry it's being shut down. But folks, we're just getting it cranked up. This rocket that we celebrate today, the others that will come, the big rocket that'll take us into low Earth orbit, where we can then assemble the components of technology that is yet to be developed as we venture out into the cosmos. And at the same time, the return of the vibrance. This marks the beginning of the vibrance of the economy of the Space Coast, the return of new and exciting jobs, with vistas unknown to be explored so that we can get kids excited again, and they'll be going into engineering and mathematics and science. Ladies and gentlemen, the dream is alive. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce our 18th Lieutenant Governor from the great state of Florida, the Honorable Jennifer Carroll. Lieutenant Governor Carroll serves as the chair of Space Florida's Board of Directors, among her many other duties. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lieutenant Governor Jennifer Carroll.
Thank you. As the chairperson of Space Florida, I would like to give hearty congratulations to my president, Frank Dibello, who worked tirelessly. This deal was on and off and on and off, but between the work with NASA and Space Florida and Boeing, we're able to now craft a lease agreement and an agreement that could be placed for other projects like this as we move forward. So we had to get it right, do it right, and I think we have a great template as we move forward. Senator Nelson, 6 months ago I was in your office talking about the commercial space program, and here we are today to fruition. Thank you very much, and to our congressional members for supporting Florida and the space mission. And I'm glad to hear your commitment to moving forward, as well as the administration's commitment to providing the resources that's necessary to put into projects like this. Oftentimes when we see dollars coming in, people usually don't see the end result. And everything that we do with Space Florida, the end result is placing jobs. And as you heard, 500 jobs just with this, utilizing the intellectual capital right here at the Space Coast. Those scientists and engineers and technicians will be able to come right here and operate and work. So when we talk about the end of the shuttle program, Senator Nelson, we talk about the new beginnings. What we are looking at is making sure that we are putting things in place for the 21st century application, that we're not sitting around just waiting for someone to tell us how Florida should be crafting its space and space exploration. But we're moving forward in a proactive way in seeking out what are the new applications, what are the new vehicles, what are the new opportunities. And Deputy Administrator Carver, please tell Administrator Bolden I would no longer bother him about Project Cyrus because we're here now today. But I will find another project to bother him about. I do want to thank Director Cabana. You have been an absolutely wonderful friend and a true partner in this, and I thank you very much for your commitment and support and the hard work that you do here. To the workers on the Space Coast, you know that I want you to know that you have great ally and support in Governor Scott and I, because we are doing everything in our powers to make sure that if you want to stay and work on a Space Coast, you can do so. But most importantly, you have a great leadership team in the local elected officials and the Brevard Workforce Development Board. You guys show up, and you are so committed to making sure that the workers at the Space Coast are protected, that you are involved not only at the local level, but at the state level and the national level. So I thank you very much for your partnership and your commitment. This is the first of a kind in agreement like this between NASA and an independent board like Space Florida. And as I mentioned before, it creates a template as to how we can move forward. Hopefully other states would not follow in our footsteps, because we want to really have it and do it the best for our country. It's interesting that over 7 years ago, I was right in this very bay, but a shuttle was over my head. And it was an awe-striking moment to see such a huge and magnificent piece of machinery, and now today it's empty. But although it's empty, it creates opportunities for the new wave for our 21st century vehicle. It creates opportunities for us to partner with Space Florida, who, through NASA, received approval for managing the International Space Station for the next 10 years. So it's fitting that we have Space Florida, NASA, and Boeing at the table together so that we can look at opportunities for developing technology, equipment, sciences, and as we move forward, really bring about the manufacturing arm that will enhance the job opportunities for our state. So I want to thank everyone that's been a partner of this, plus our community, plus our local elected officials in making this happen. But you know, for our state, things like this just doesn't happen. It happens because we have a great person at the helm managing and turning this state around to be a state that's business friendly, to be a state that's common sense, to be a state that's efficient, to be a state that really recognizes opportunities for the new century, for looking at how do we develop our K-12 system? How do we partner with our university systems? How do we create an environment that will place individuals when they go through our education system to work and workforce that's going to be one that develops into prosperity for the future, a workforce that will be able to have a salary income and prosperity so that they can take care of their families. We have an individual at the helm of the state of Florida who came in and said, we're not going to continue status quo. We're going to turn this state around and operate it with an efficient manner, with a visionary way, with an open mind, with a collective way that we can make sure that the high tide will raise all boats. And that individual is none other than my partner, Governor Rick Scott.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's great to work with Jennifer. When we won and we came to office in January, one of the things Jennifer said is she wanted to be very involved in Space Florida, and she wanted to be responsible for Space Florida. It's something that she thinks about every day, and this is a great success for Jennifer's effort, along with other individuals, and for Space Florida. So congratulations. So it sort of gives you goosebumps standing here where the space shuttle used to be. As all of us grew up watching man go to space, then to the moon, and watch all the great things that happened with the space shuttle and the International Space Station. So it's great to be here. It's more fun to talk about the future than what we've done in the past. I want to say this is absolutely a great day for the great state of Florida and for space exploration worldwide. Congratulations to Boeing. We're very appreciative that Boeing is doing this for Space Florida. What Frank's done and his absolute commitment to what the Kennedy Space Center is doing, what NASA's doing. I want to thank Senator Nelson and Senator Rubio, the entire delegation. Especially I want to thank Senator Nelson's tireless efforts on this program, and Congressman Bill Posey and Congresswoman Sandy Adams. It's all this entire group up here. This would not be happening. And this isn't happening anyplace else in the country. It's happening here. And it's because of their commitment to making something happen. And thank goodness that's going on, especially when we've lost the manned or the space shuttle program. So Florida's commitment to being the best place in the nation to do business is clearly sticking in the minds of private sector companies looking to start up or expand in our state. And as you probably know, we are, I think, number 2 this year in job creation in the country. And in the month of September, we were the number 1 state for private sector job creation in the entire country. So congratulations. Today's announcement is evidence of this and shows that Florida has the world-class facilities and workforce expertise we need. On top of that, I want to be very thankful to Senate President Mike Herodopoulos and to Speaker Dean Cannon and the entire delegation for their absolute commitment to making sure we had the funding for Space Florida. And as you can see, we have a lot of great programs in the state, public-private partnerships, and these work. And this money has been well spent. And I think we have a lot of thanks to Frank for that. So the creation of 550 aerospace jobs is great news for both the advancement of the space industry here in Florida, and the talented Florida engineers and scientists will have an opportunity for a good job. Linking up Florida's brilliant space minds with a private company like Boeing, who sees the business advantages of Florida and wants to invest here, is the #1 way we're going to recover jobs lost from the retirement of the space shuttle program. In Florida, we understand that it is the private sector, private businesses like Boeing, not the government, who creates jobs in a prosperous economy. The space transportation systems being developed by private companies like Boeing, like this one, will rocket us back to the forefront of the space industry and help reignite job growth. Florida has 5 decades of leadership in the space industry, which makes our state the logical place for the next phase of space travel and exploration. I applaud Boeing and Space Florida for their efforts to bring this project to fruition and encourage more private companies like Boeing to take advantage of the built-in talent of Florida's Space Coast. So finally, congratulations to everybody here, to Space Florida, to NASA, to Boeing, and I look forward to great success.
Okay, that concludes our program today. I want to thank everyone for coming out. I certainly want to thank all the distinguished speakers that we had. I will tell you that coordinating the schedules of those people that you heard from today is a small challenge, but it all came together. Today, I think, is a great day for the country, a great day for the state of Florida, a great day for NASA, and certainly an exciting day and a great day for Boeing. Thank you very much.